What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So, I want to talk about the fetishization of dark skinned children and light skinned children. And of course, you probably know where this topic came from, but I really don't want to talk about that situation because I've already spoken about that situation, and plenty of people have already spoken about that situation. And, we've said pretty much all there is to say about that situation. At this point, we would just be repeating things that have already been said. But what I do want to talk about is just the spirit of the situation, kind of like the situation in general, which is the fetishization of black children, both dark skinned children and light skinned children, right? And usually when I see people fetishizing children, um, I do run across more fetishization of darker skinned children than lighter skinned children. Mm, you know, in my personal experience, that's what I tend to run across more, right? And usually I don't hear people complaining about that, right? I usually don't hear people saying that, oh, this is not a, you know, this is not good. We need to stop this. We're all beautiful. All skin tones matter. I don't really hear any of that, right? And as well, when I do run across the fetishization of dark skinned children, I usually hear the term or the phrase chocolate, usually, you know, not every single time, but usually it's like, oh, I want me a chocolate baby, you know. And you'll hear, brown skin and dark skinned black women saying that, and you'll hear some light skinned mixed biracial women saying that. They want a chocolate baby, right? And again, the I don't really hear or see people really complaining about that, right? And that's not considered a bad thing to want, quote unquote, a chocolate baby. And again, right off the bat, that's automatically fetishization in my book. If you're referring to a child as being chocolate, their skin tone is chocolate, it's like, no, you know, children aren't confectionery treats. Right? Children aren't made of chocolate, their skin tone is brown skin or dark skin. So, like right there, we're automatically, right off the bat, fetishizing a black child based on skin tone. And by the way, are we against the fetishization of children, or are we against the fetishization of people? Like, are we against the fetishization of black children and the fetishization of black people, or are we against just the fetishization of children, but it's okay to fetishize the adults? You know, you get what I mean? Because I feel like, on one hand, when it comes to the adults, it's like, oh, it's all good in the hood sometimes, right? But when it comes to the kids, like, oh, well, really, to keep it real, to keep it 100, when it comes to the light skin being fetishized, that's considered a bad thing, right? Both for the kids and the adults, you know. But when it comes to the dark skin children and adults being fetishized, then there's not really a complaint about that. So are we against the fetishization of just children and adults? Or are we against the fetishization of light skinned people? And that's it. You get where I'm trying to say, right? I'm trying to phrase this and make this understandable. Um, but really, to break it down, are we against the fetishization of light skinned people, but okay with the fetishization of dark skinned people? Or are we against fetishization altogether? And I think that's something that we have to be real about, right? Because usually, when it comes to fetishization of kids and adults, it's usually okay when it's referring to a dark-skinned person. Usually. But when it refers to a light-skinned person, it's like, oh, that's a problem. And it's at this point, it's like it gets me to thinking, oh, is it a problem because you're just not the fetish this time around? Let's be real, like that is something to think about, right? People are just perhaps feeling some type of a way because this time around they just aren't the fetish, right? They just aren't the center of fetishization, right? Um, you know. And then another point of hypocrisy I want to touch on is sort of like, saying like, oh, light-skinned children are ugly. But if the same thing was said about a dark-skinned child, it would be like, oh, no, you can't say that. You're saying that because of their skin tone, right? Um, like when that dude who spoke at that other dude's funeral, y'all know who I'm talking about, had said what he said, they looked at his daughter and was like, oh, she's ugly, you know? And it's like, oh, so kids are now no longer off limits? you know? Something to think about too. It's like, okay, so it seems like the rules change based on who's benefiting. you know? Like, because if he had a brown skinned daughter and someone said that the brown skinned daughter was ugly, then it's like, oh no, you shouldn't say that. Which I do agree. I don't think you should, you know, say things about children in regards to their looks. I don't think that we should do that. But it seems like again the rules tend to change based on the situation versus the rules just being the rules. You know. And I know some people probably come through and say like, the situations aren't the same. They aren't 100% equivalent. And I agree. When it comes to dark skin and light skin people, I don't think that the situations are 100% equivalent. Where I can understand, to be real, I can understand some brown skin and dark skin people really, embracing the fetishization. As well, there's light skinned people who do too. Not saying that they're the only people who do it. A lot of people do it across the board. But I'm saying I can understand where that comes from, right? Um, but it's like, well, what about when the light skinned folks are being fetishized though? Is it like it seems like that becomes a problem. I guess because people feel a little hit to their side and it's like, well, oh, I don't fit into that. So am I not valued? Am I not considered something to be desired? Like, what's wrong with a kid looking like me and my phenotype? Understandable, of course. You know, when sometimes I hear a whole bunch of women talking about they want chocolate kids. Well, it's like, well, I can't give you a chocolate kid, so I guess I'm out. To be real, right? You know. And as well, like if I were to get on here and just, dote over some light skinned kid, I'm pretty sure I would get some backlash for that, you know. But on the flip side, if I were to get on here and dote over, a brown skin or dark skinned child, then I'm pretty sure that there wouldn't be nearly as much backlash because of that, right? And it just goes to just make you think. It just makes you think like, where does that come from? You know. No. Me personally, I really don't care too much about children and their looks for the most part. You know. I would say probably about two times in my life that that sort of happened. One with a mixed girl and one with a couple who was like a brown skin, dark skin couple, right? So it kind of was on both ends of the spectrum, to keep it real. One, like with the mixed girl, like I had saw her, she was like in this like group when she was a kid, and I had saw this group, but by the time I saw the group when she was in when she was a kid, she was an adult now. So I had looked at her. I was like, I wonder how she turned out, right? Based on how she looked as a kid, I'm like, okay, I think she would grow into a really beautiful, striking woman. And when I saw her, it was like she didn't look ugly, but I don't know, something, I don't know, maybe something about her look was no longer there that really captivated me or, caught my attention. Perhaps it was the hair texture or something, because I think when she turned into an adult or became an adult, she wound up straightening her hair, and it kind of maybe washed away some of her, I guess, I don't want to say ethnic, but some of her, I guess, appeal, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was the hair texture. I don't know. Because when she was a kid, she had like, kind of like blonde, biracial girl curls, and plus, she had like a look to her. But again, it's a little strange to be saying that. But again, keeping it real, I was like, okay, I'm interested to see how she looks when she's an adult now, right? You know, Ultimately, I think when she became an adult, to put it simply, I think she just lost her je ne sais quoi as far as her look is concerned. And I think it had to do with her removing her, straightening her hair. For me personally. And the same thing sort of happened to me when it came to like low key like Jessica Alba too. That sort of happened too. Was where I kind of thought like, oh, she would look better with straight hair, but then when I saw her, I was like, I kind of like the natural look better, like the curlier hair. Another story for another day. All right. The next story I want to talk about is when it came to the brown skin and dark skin fetishization, right? Um, So I know of this couple, and it's like a kind of like a brown skinned woman with kind of like a dark skinned man, and both of them I think have really striking, beautiful skin tones. To be real. So I was kind of thought to myself, I was like, they would have some like really nice melanated kids because both of them have some like really good looking skin tones, right? Am I a bad person for that? Am I a bad person for the first part with the mixed girl? And if I am I a bad person for this part with the brown skin and dark skin black folks? Right? Am I bad across the board? Or am I not bad at all? Just something to think about, right? You know. And I think I may have forgotten to talk about the fetishization of light skinned kids. Um, Again, me personally, I tend to see more dark skinned kids being fetishized in my personal experience than light skinned kids. But of course, we know about the whole cheers to light skinned kids and, mixed kids are the prettiest kids type of shit. Light skinned pretty daughters. We know about that. So I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, but I'm just going to say in my personal experience, and I just don't tend to encounter it as much. And I have talked about, the cheers to light skinned kid situation and, the light skinned pretty daughter situation as well. You know, and I think people get so triggered by those situations because, they put, those brown skinned and dark skinned men on such a high pedestal when really they should be doing that for you, not the other way around. But they put them on such a high pedestal and, talk about how basically they want to have their children, right? These chocolate children, right? But when they don't feel that being reciprocated, then it's like, oh, it's a problem then, right? And by and large, I think it's reciprocated. But it's just some of these examples in the media just aren't showing that to be true. But I think by and large, it happens, and it's pretty normal. If anything, I think it's, what's not reciprocated is like the light skinned folks getting together and having kids. I think that that's more so discouraged, for one way or another, right? But again, light skinned children can come from, brown, like dark skinned and light skinned parents as well. Dark skinned children can come from both light skinned and dark skinned parents. So, genetics, right? you know, um, just genetic as well. Skin tone as a genetic trait is extremely difficult to predict. It is. So you don't know what you're going to get in some situations because the skin tones, it could be a variety of things, right? Sometimes you could get one parent's skin tone. Sometimes you can get a mixture of the skin tones of your parents' skin tones. Sometimes you can get a skin tone that's neither one of your parents' skin tone. It depends. It really just depends. All right. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. Thanks a lot for watching. Please let me know what you guys think. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.